Well, what they're doing is creating particles that put out anti-gravity and using the coils to strengthen the field, just like an electromagnet does. I'm not sure which 5, but I've always felt that if our scientists at Livermore would stop telling me about how much they know and instead start running a few experiments by chunking those mesons down and the other subatomic particles around fiber optic coils, you see, building fiber optics that bend those particles and chunk them down there, that it would be a very simple matter to discover. Yeah. The guy in the back? Okay. The guy in red, and then I'll come over here on this side.
What is their concept of God?
I don't know, but as you see in my books, in the second book, when the teacher was explaining to the other tall whites that day I was up in the main hangar, and they had me standing up in front of them with chairs, although they were folding chairs, and the American general off on the left, and she was saying, and also in book 1, in the day they had me out at the Range 3 lounge, the teacher was saying to the crowd, to the tall whites, about me, she was saying he believes in God, and he believes that his God will protect him from us when we come in close. And everyone understood. And so she didn't have to explain to them religious concepts or what God was. They all understood what she meant by that. And so that's as close as they ever came to explaining anything relating to religion to me. Over here on this chat, yes, the guy in blue. What kind of reason does our government have for them? Agreement? Well, from what I understand, the agreement is that the government will provide them with a base because the outer perimeter is manned by by human guards, U.S. Air Force guards. The inner perimeter is treated like an alien embassy and is manned by the aliens. It's physically running around about a third of the way up on that mountain. When you go up that Indian Springs Valley, and you get to the very end, it's so beautiful. It's a shame it's a government land because it would be one of the most beautiful resorts in America. I've always felt that, I mean, if you were to just blindfold somebody and take them up there and release them, they wouldn't think they were on the earth anymore because it's so beautiful. And I've been up there a number of times. When you get up to there to the right and you go to start going up along the road along the side of the mountain to where the human guard shack is, golly, it's just breathtakingly beautiful. And what the government wants is technology transfer. The government would do anything to get technology transfer from the tall whites. The tall whites only agree to things if it's in their interest. And so the tall white, and in return, the tall whites get a base, you see, which they need for to service their deep spacecraft. The tall whites didn't come here to actually give us technology. It has to be in their interest. So the tall whites had no reason to tell us how to build deep spacecraft. The day that I was out there, for example, in book 2 that I previously described, there was only tall whites working on that craft. It had been built using parts provided to them by the U.S. Air Force. However, the Air Force gave them the parts, and they assembled it, especially the propulsion system, with no humans around. That's why I say, as far as I know, I'm the only human that ever got closer than any other human to this craft, while the alien mechanics were actually working on it. The tall whites didn't see any reason didn't see where it would be in their benefit to help them, for them to help us in that area. Other areas, however, like radios, they were all perfectly willing to help us with areas like radios, like all sorts of things, where they're, so like they could put in and say, I'd like to buy a new replacement radio for my scoutcraft, and have the Americans provide them with a new high-quality radio, you see, and where the Americans and the aliens had mutual agreements. One night, on several nights early on, when I was in my barracks and the American generals came through with the alien generals, I could hear them standing right outside the door, way closer than from here to that door, because it was a very small thing, maybe as close as from here to that first line of chairs. And they were talking with the aliens about projects that they could do jointly. The American generals wanted to pick a couple of Air Force officers, for which they were offering me as one of them. They could say, well, we could send him to college and make him an officer. I was an enlisted man at the time, and they wanted to put 2 of them on the deep spacecraft and send them down to the next stop and see what was down there and then come back and tell them. The alien generals didn't feel that that was in there, they thought that was a waste of time, okay? What they wanted was for the American officers and the alien generals to pick a planet, an Earth-like planet. They said there were several nearby, or around stars that were nearby, and for their version of nearby could be 10 light years, which were too cold for them to colonize, but from their point of view would be just perfect for humans that weren't otherwise inhabited. But they described them as being similar to, say, Illinois or Wisconsin. The aliens liked it way warmer than we do. And their version was that they would handle the transport, the ships, and that would be in their hands. But once we got there, we'd be in charge of everything on the planet. And all they wanted was for us to build them a base that they could use on their planet, just like they have one here on Earth, and we could do anything we wanted with the rest of the planet. And then they felt that in the course of building that, what they were offering was that whenever our guys needed supplies, they would take them with them to the store, wherever it happened to be, you see. So if our guys needed more supplies, they could either bring them back here to the Earth to get the supplies, or to whatever planet was closest where you could get the appropriate building supplies. And they felt that in that process, humans would learn about their society and they would learn about ours. They thought that was a better deal than merely putting a couple guys on a spacecraft and telling them to go look at the store. And it showed how the aliens thought, namely that they would agree to anything provided they saw where they would benefit from it. Okay. Let's see. I'll take that one. Yeah.
Charles, I think under any set of other circumstances, this kind of material would be classified top secret number or something like that. You know, in effect, you're being permitted to release this by virtue of no action against you. Seems like it's part of an acclimation program or part of it. Do you agree, or do you have any reasons why you think you were allowed to do this without any?
The committee that picked me had aliens on it and human generals on it, Air Force generals. And when you make an agreement with the aliens, you keep it, okay? The consequences of breaking an agreement with the aliens are enormous. When I say they live like 700 years, remember, even though it's been 40 years for us, that's peanuts for them. They live 700 years. If the American generals when they made an agreement with the generals, it wasn't for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It was an agreement, period. And if they thought that the U.S. Air Force was breaking its agreements by, say, pressuring Charlie, the consequences would be enormous. And it has nothing to do with whether I'm a nice guy or not a nice guy, or whether they like me or didn't like me. It's when you make an agreement with the aliens, can you be trusted? And they didn't have to be long-suffering. Remember, as I describe in my books, each one of them carried those weapons up their sleeve. And if you like the teacher, if an American general were to come up to the teacher, she doesn't have to ask him questions. They wear that electronic communication equipment. They can tell what you're thinking. And if all she's got to do is go see if he did anything that broke the agreement. And if she finds anything in there, she can jerk the equalizer and have him on his knees. I knew a CIA guard once that was terrified of the teacher. He told me that he had been escorting her down the steps of the Capitol building one Sunday afternoon, and that she had been talking with U.S. senators, and she was disguised as a human. And he said because he wasn't familiar with the way they walked, as she was coming down the steps, she was wearing low heels, not high heels, but just, flats, that he thought she was going to trip and fall, because he wasn't used to the fact that how they walked up and down steps. He said without thinking, he reached out and grabbed her by the elbow to steady her, the way you would, say, a lady. And he said she damn near, pardon my language, she almost killed him. She jerked that thing, and before he knew it, she had him down on his knees, giving him the equivalent of 120,000 volts AC, saying, do you think we're fools? Do you think I'd come down these steps if I couldn't take care of myself? And by the time she finished with him, it was nothing but yes ma'am, no ma'am. So when I say that when you make an agreement with the aliens, you keep it, and the generals will do anything for technology transfer, well, here I am. Remember when I came off the ranges in conclusion, I didn't bring anything with me. I didn't bring any pictures. I didn't bring any diaries. I didn't bring any blueprints. I was never part of anything. I was never shown anything classified. I was never given a briefing. I came off with just my memories, okay? And remember, the aliens, in conclusion, are not in favor of secrecy. It's only the generals that were in favor of secrecy. It was very common for the aliens to remark, the teacher and those people, to remark about how silly the secrecy was. They felt that if they dressed up to look like humans and behaved themselves, they ought to be able to go into Las Vegas and shop for pretty dresses just like anybody else. Okay? Yeah? That lady? Mm-hmm. The CIA guard, the regular dealers didn't know that. They just knew that the government was coming and they had to stand aside. The CIA guards that were there and the dealers that were there, they weren't told much. They were just told that if these people come in, you know, be nice to them, okay? One dealer I was talking to, one of the CIA guards that I was talking to when he was dealing, and he was looking down like he didn't want anyone to know that he was talking to me because he wasn't forbidden to talk to me. It's just that, you know, the CIA guys are always trying to pretend there's somebody else, you know. And nothing stands out in the crowd faster than a general and a CIA guard trying to look like an ordinary human. You know, they don't know how to do it. You know, you know, none of them have the faintest idea. You know. And he was saying a group of your people, speaking to me, he was saying a group of your people came through Saturday night, last Saturday night. And I said, my people, you know? And he said, yeah, you know, the white people. And I said, well, where did they come from? And he said, see, he said, none of us know anything. You're the only one that knows anything, okay? All he knew was that he knew me, they all knew me by face, name, rank, serial number. They knew that when some people came in, if they issued the normal words, like I was the friend of the teacher or teacher's pet, then you're nice to them. But they weren't told any more than they had to be. Yeah. Yes. And you'll see in book 3 those 3 ladies that, you know, handed me the book, or the head lady handed me the book in my barracks. And the same 3 ladies that had been wanting to play pool with, you know, Bridges in book 2, and he couldn't take it. That was their point, was to go into the into the Senate. Remember, the Senate has that pool room in the basement where the senators take bribes. I know they call it something else. They say, let's bet on this pool game, and then guess what? The senator wins, so you hand him money, right? You know, and say, oh, it was just a pool game, right? You know, so, you know, well, that's where they were headed for, you see, to talk to the senators over the pool table, you know. From their point of view, they loved the game of pool. It's how you drive a gravity-powered spacecraft, is by playing pool with the stars. And, you know, that's a wonderful place to go talk to senators. I don't want to run too long, so I'll take these questions here, and then I'll call it a day. I'll take each one of you that has your hands, and then I'll call it a day, okay? Let's see, I'll start with the lady in the back, okay? Oh. I can only guess, but you'll notice that in my books I clearly described their technology where they could read my mind and tell what I was thinking and place thoughts in it, as long as they were simple thoughts. And I see the CIA has been working on that ever since 1954. So that's as much as I know. The lady in the back, and. Do I think it may be possible that there may be more than one version of human? I saw no evidence that they travel in time, okay? Now, my feeling is that because meteors blast DNA material all over this solar system and the ones next to it, and vice versa, my feeling is that if you go out and look at life on nearby planets, that it'll look like us. One night when I asked the teacher, as I described in book 3, what life on other planets looked like, or how humans compared, she said that the humans were unique in our ability to play with animals. She said that on the other planets where they had seen intelligent life, they were all plant eaters. She said she was a plant eater. We're the only ones that go out and play with animals, that keep pets. She said that that was really unique. You know, like her example was that I grew up on a farm in Wisconsin. I know how to milk cows, ride horses, play with dogs. All those animals could kill me, but I feel comfortable around them because I first decide how is that animal thinking. And she's pointed out how unique that was, since humans are more intelligent.